It's that time again. The annual conference of the American Society of Ag Consultants, otherwise known as ASAC, is going to be held in Fort Myers, Florida, this November 4th and 5th. Kurt Covington is one of 9 professionals who will address the conference. The other speakers who will cover a wide range of topics represent Florida Farm Bureau, Florida Citrus Commission, University of Tennessee Institute of Agriculture, National Ag Law Center, Risk Mitigators and Advisors, Tyler Associates, as well as the lead economist for dairy at CoBank, and myself, Chrissy Wozniak from North American Ag. The day and a half of presentations will be followed by ag tours on Tuesday afternoon at Echo Farms, one of my favorite places here in Fort Myers. Attendees will experience farming at its most creative, with unique demonstrations, plants, and techniques being used to help farmers and urban gardeners in developing countries. A second tour at Echo will showcase simple technologies that can improve food, water, and shelter for millions of people. A third tour of a hydroponic grower is also being planned. For more information and to register, visit www.agconsultants.org. That's www.agconsultants.org. See you there. Many innovations for the agriculture industry show promise in the lab and controlled small plot settings, but fall short when it comes to capturing complete data from the field. From the start, Intent built its business on bringing efficiency and effectiveness to field trials, helping clients reach their business goals. Since then, Intent has unveiled its InVision software, which works in conjunction with Intent's farmer trials network of more than 1,500 growers to maximize data collection and quality. Today, Intent's sole focus remains the same, to equip agribusiness with better data. But the manner in which Intent is able to collect, interpret, and model that data is light years ahead of what was previously thought possible. To learn more about Intent, visit intent.ag. That's intent, INTENT.ag. Welcome to North American Ag Spotlight. I'm Chrissy Wozniak. My guests today are 2 distinguished guests today. I'll start with Dr. Frank Wong. He is the U.S. Industry Affairs Lead for Bayer Crop Science based in Raleigh, North Carolina, and he has over 25 years of experience in plant protection and works with a broad range of stakeholders to find solutions for regulatory and policy issues for row crop, specialty ag, and non-ag industries. Frank is active across the crop protection industry and serves on a number of work groups and committees in support of Bayer, Responsible Industry for Sound Environment, CropLife of America, and the Federal Endangered Species Task Force, in addition to the Growing Matters Coalition. And also with us today is Nick Tinsley. He's a seed treatment technical field representative with BASF, covering the Eastern Corn Belt. He has a responsibility for research and development activities and customer support related to BASF's seed treatment portfolio. Nick received his Bachelor of Science, Master of Science, and Ph.D. from the University of Illinois and has 17 years of experience in agriculture. So thank you, welcome, and thank you both for joining me today. I think it'll be a great discussion.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Awesome. So we're going to talk about Growing Matters and the BeSure program. So can we first off start just by telling me a bit about your backgrounds, each of you?
Sure, I can take a stab first. So the name's Nick Tinsley, and you did a great introduction there at the high points. I will say I was kind of trained as an agricultural entomologist, and so that's just kind of a fancy way of saying that I study and work with insects that affect crops. And so I'm based out of the Midwest and work really in corn, soybeans, and wheat on those insects, and more recently some other aspects of crop management like diseases and nematodes as well. So that's kind of where I come from, Chrissy.
Great. And Dr. Wong?
Oh, Frank is fine. Dr. Wong makes me sound like James Bond villain. So, yeah. So you actually get another ag pest management specialist or discipline So I am a trained plant pathologist. So unlike Nick, who got to look at cool insects, I got to look at moldy plants all day long for my PhD. So I've been a practicing plant pathologist for many years. I was a statewide extension at University of California, and I've always been kind of more oriented towards the fruit and vegetable space, especially crops, and even did quite a significant amount of work in the golf course and sports turf area. So I've seen a lot of different issues with crop and non-crop pest management. So happy to be here.
Amazing. So tell me about Growing Matters and the BeSure campaign.
Yeah, I'd be happy to kind of take that one. So the Be Sure campaign is really this awesome initiative. It's essentially a public awareness campaign to really make the public and growers specifically aware of the stewardship aspects of using what we call neonicotinoid products. And so these could be things like seed treatments or foliar sprays that we use on the farm, like Frank said, in golf courses or even around the house. And we know that it's important to use those products in a way that's safe and effective. So we know that growers rely on these. Everyone really does, and so using them in with good stewardship practices can really make sure that they're here for a long time for them to use. And it's really a coalition from the Growing Matters group, and this is a lot of basic manufacturers. So companies like mine and Frank's, so BASF and Bayer, as well as some others that have kind of gotten together to help spread the message. And we're also backed by, commodity organizations, things like the American Soybean Association, National Corn Growers Association, American Seed Trade Association. So I think everyone who's kind of involved with these types of products knows how important they are and have come together for this awareness campaign.
Yeah, and I like how it's a lot of united voices who are very deeply entrenched in the industry. So it's not like somebody above just talking at farmers. I like that it's a united voice that's actually trying to lift up farmers, right?
Yeah, we all have a stake in
Mhm.
this for sure.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah. And so, in my opinion, producers are the best stewards of the land. Um, I know it can be there's a lot of trendy words and people are sick of hearing a lot of the sustainability and all of that, I think at this point, but it is important to be good stewards of the earth. And so why is it so important to, in your opinion, to practice these proper stewardship practices?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a great question, Chrissy. Again, I was joking about it earlier, whether it's insects or fungi, nematodes or weeds, there's all kinds of creatures out there that are totally happy, impacting crops and reducing your yield and causing farmers all kinds of problems, right? So, definitely crop protection tools are needed, and there's a myriad of them. But, for sure, insecticides are one of those tools. But as with any tool, using it correctly and using it responsibly is a big part of that agreement, right? And so you would never give an unlicensed driver or somebody who's never driven a car before just freedom just to do whatever they want to do, right? And so a lot of that holds true with crop protection chemistries and insecticides like that farmers use for protecting their crops. So, stewardship is really about following the label, doing the right thing, and protecting non-targets from any potential effects. And again, farmers do an incredibly good job as far as using those tools properly. But again, it's just a reminder that don't take it lightly as far as not following the label. Use all the information on the label, follow the instructions. Stay within the letter of the law as far as making your applications. And I know life can get a little crazy. Don't cut corners. There is a definite responsibility for using these kinds of tools, and especially with the public. The public can be really touchy, and what is it? The numbers are roughly about only one out of every 100 citizens in the U.S. here is actually related to farming or rural communities. So again, there's just a lot of misunderstanding about crop protection chemistry. So in order to really show our responsible use and that these tools are being used in a safe, responsible manner, following the label and practicing good stewardship is just really essential for keeping these tools available that are needed every day to protect our crops against pests.
Yeah, that's a great explanation. And so specifically, what are some quick reminders that applicators can follow for treated seed?
Yeah, treated seed is really an excellent tool. If you think about it, maybe some folks aren't familiar. So essentially, a treated seed is you apply the crop protection product to the seed before it's even planted, and so it protects that seed as it's in the ground. And then once that seedling germinates and begins to grow, that plant takes up those crop protection chemistries like neonicotinoids and helps protect it against like insect attack. So really valuable tool. And there's a number of things we can do to make sure that they're used in a responsible way. So, for example, one thing a grower might consider is using a polymer with those seed treatments or the proper seed flow lubricants. And so you don't want to have a situation where you've got dust being created that can settle into areas where we might not want that. And so that's definitely something to consider. Something else is that this seed is pretty expensive when growers purchase it, and so you don't want to leave it sitting on the ground if you happen to spill it, right? It represents a pretty significant investment for that grower, and so anytime you have seed on the ground, it's important to collect it up, put it back in the original container, or alternatively, if it's just a small amount, you can bury it under the soil. So these are some ways that I think growers can really tackle using treated seeds in a responsible way and continue to have that technology available to help protect against things like insects and other pathogens and diseases as well. So,
Yeah, and then what about any tips for foliar applications?
Oh, yeah. Definitely with foliar applications, I think, again, there are going to be specific instructions on the label with regard to, application instructions, things you have to watch for as far as nozzle selection, watch out for wind speed, so on and so forth, buffers. So, again, paying attention to all of those details on the label is really, really important. Again, I'm going to sound like that naggy dad, but it's just really important. And most of all, I think one thing that we want to make sure is that if you see foraging pollinators, if you see active pollinators, insecticides are going to impact them. So especially with the foliar application, so just be aware of their presence and avoid application directly to those foraging pollinators, especially with neonicotinoids.
Yeah, that makes sense. And what should farmers do with their leftover or their unused treated seed? Is there a way to dispose of them?
yeah, that's another fantastic question. Every year we try to order the exact amount of seed that we're going to need for our acres, but inevitably you are going to have some left over. And so you can have, if it's a small amount, we also get weather conditions each year where maybe a portion of the field gets drowned out and you might have to replant. Using some of that treated seed in those replant situations is a great opportunity to kind of dispose of it in a way that will also produce a harvest for those growers. So that's one method. Anytime you've got a large amount of treated seed, that's a lot to deal with. And so there are companies out there and avenues for getting rid of and disposing of that in a responsible and safe way. And so I typically recommend that growers reach out to maybe their local extension office or even the state or local departments of agriculture. These are great resources and they can help get people linked up with the proper disposal techniques. So that's a very important aspect of this.
Right. Yeah. And I've seen over the years, I'm originally from Canada, and the neonic debate happened 10 years ago. We were kind of going through this. And what happened is a lot of the lobbyists came out and ended up banning it. And I think it's important that we are educating lawmakers as well as consumers about these issues where these treated seeds are actually reducing, the once they were banned, now more harmful, less targeted solutions had to be used. So how are you guys making strides to try to push that education so that the same thing doesn't happen?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, go ahead, Frank. Yeah.
Thank you, Nick. For sure, educating the public is a high priority, and I think that's one of the benefits of having the Growing Matters Coalition. It's a unified voice as far as bringing public education, advocating for stewardship and the continued use of these tools. If you go to the Growing Matters website, there's a lot of information there about, why growers and farmers need these kinds of technologies. There are significant, economic impacts, positive economic impacts on the agricultural community from the use of these. And, like you mentioned, Chrissy, there's some really great cautionary tales as far as, sometimes legislation getting ahead of the science. And at the end of the day, the farming community pays the price as far as not having tools to be able to use for the control of insect pests. Again, it's an uphill battle. I think sometimes I would say, legislators are making decisions not necessarily based on the full facts, or just not understanding fully the science and the benefits versus the risks of crop protection chemistry. So again, all I can say is, we just as a industry continue to need to show that we can use these materials properly and use them responsibly. Because again, if nobody ever congratulates you for doing the right thing, but as soon as you do the wrong thing, 100 people jump on your back. And so again, it's just really important that the end users practice good stewardship and best management practices as far as using these tools properly.
Yeah, great points. And I think it would be helpful if everyone, before they could comment, had to grow a tomato plant or a cucumber or squash and see
Yeah.
how everything else wants to eat it too. It's like raising chickens. Everything wants to eat
Yeah.
the chickens, not just us, right? So we're
Yeah.
so far removed from farming that, it's nearly impossible to grow anything without some human intervention, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I will say, if we had to grow tomatoes as our test for working in this industry, I might actually fail. If it was corn or soybean, I might be okay. But no, that's a great point, Chrissy. Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
Chrissy, every year, I know there's a book about this, but every year we try growing tomatoes in our front yard, and the estimated cost of each tomato is about $82. Yeah, no.
Oh, that's hilarious. As an avid gardener, I can definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
Uh, so what do you recommend producers do to try to make an impact in this area? Uh, should they be calling their representatives? Should they be, is there a place that they can be aware of maybe, um, bills that are coming out or anything like that?
Yeah.
yeah. So this is a great question. First and foremost, these are the end users of these products, and so they carry that burden on their shoulders whenever they go out to their fields to affect one of these management sprays or apply treated seed. And so, again, just want to reiterate how important it is to make sure you're following everything you can on those labels. And I would mention, for treated seed, there's kind of a special type of label that is applied to the container that seed comes in. It's called the seed tag, and it contains a lot of that language about stewardship on there as well. And so sometimes it's called a seed tag, and it's different than a label, but it's important to take a look at that. In terms of getting involved, I think there's myriad ways that growers can kind of reach out and see how they might be able to help spread the message. And certainly, there are many organizations like Growing Matters that have great websites that can direct people to how they can best spend their time in that area if they do want to get involved in things like advocacy.
Yeah.
Yeah, great points. Yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Chrissy, I'm just going to put a plug in for the national and the state grower organizations, grower and other ag industry associations. We have the pleasure of working with a number of them. Ranging from like the National Association of Wheat Growers to American Soybean Association, National Corn Growers Association, so on and so forth. And with those national groups, there's also state groups. So like the Illinois Soybean Association, whatever, so on and so forth. And really, again, growers and farmers have got, a million other things to worry about. And one of the benefits of being part of a national or state organization is that when there are things like legislation or regulatory issues that pop up that impact the tools that you need, they often send out member alerts and action alerts. And, sometimes a letter to your state or federal pesticide regulators, is what's needed. Sometimes you need folks to go up to the Capitol and just tell legislators about, what you do and why certain things are important to you. And again, there's a famous saying in DC, either you're at the table or you're on the menu, right? And it's a great saying because, it's amazing how if you don't show up, there are plenty of people who know nothing about what you do who are perfectly willing to tell your story for you, and I think that's something that, again, a lot of the member or grower groups and organizations, I know that sometimes, membership is like, it's not always something that seems important, but being a member of those national and state grower organizations is really helpful in that context.
Yeah, good point. And another thing to keep in mind is that crop protection methods, treatments don't just happen overnight. There's years and years of science and testing, and then going through EPA and getting, it's not like it's just here's a new product and it's just brand new, right? Can you outline a bit of that, about that timeline?
Yeah. Nick, this is kind of, the bread and butter stuff.
Yeah. Go ahead. No, go ahead. I love hearing it. Yeah.
Yeah. On average, I think, you're talking about, like the, $400 million range there as far as developing a new chemical. And, it could take up to 10 years to get registered. So, back in the day when I was still a postdoc, I remember the figure was like, if you could find one new, chemistry in a pool of 200,000, it was a great year. And I think it's probably gotten even more stringent as far as finding things that are effective, that are new, that have, a really good ecological profile and non-target effects. Or lack non-target effects. Again, it's almost kind of like, finding a needle in a haystack these days. So definitely not only with the cost and time of things that it takes to register them at the federal and state level, but it's really hard to find these molecules. So let's not take what we have for granted as far as not stewarding them.
Yeah, and I'd just add, for some context from myself, we tend to think about companies like Bayer or BASF as these large, almost faceless companies. And I can tell you, in my role to help develop these chemistries that folks use, it's intensely personal. And we have tremendous investment and passion around bringing the next tool to market that can help growers' lives easier and help make those calories more available to a food insecure world. This is why we, folks like Frank and I get up in the morning. And so we very much are invested in making sure that these products, once we bring them to market, are there for a long time for growers to use. So just to kind of personalize that a little bit on my side.
Right. And that's perfect segue into my very last question. What are you the most passionate about in what each of you do?
Yeah, I'll take the first step. I really have two passions, and it comes back to this notion that a lot of my job is research and development, and some of it is customer support. So exactly, when I am able to kind of identify a new chemistry that can help make a difference in terms of farmers' operation, that is really important. And it's kind of the reason that we get up and go to work every morning. And just knowing that a grower might be having an issue that we have a solution for is truly rewarding. Agriculture, I think, has always been a great industry to be in. I wish more folks would get involved with it, especially from diverse backgrounds. I think it's so rewarding in that way. And then, from the research side, it's every day I learn something new. It is so incredible. And being able to share that with folks is just the passion and the reason for doing it.
Right. And Frank?
I'm going to sound really dumb when I say this compared to what Nick just said, but I'm doing it for the donuts. In all seriousness, I grew up in Fresno, California, so that's like the fruit and vegetable basket of the world, right? And you've got fields and orchards around you, and coming from a Chinese American family that's always been passionate about food and culture. A big part of the family was in the restaurant business, the grocery business, and you need what? You need water, oxygen, and food to survive, right? And so that's always been something that has been a big passion, is feeding the world and providing sustenance to, our society, right? And I think, supporting the farmers and the people who actually provide those, the food, food fiber, fruits and vegetables, everything, that our society needs, is a, incredibly wonderful job. And that led me to a career in extension before joining Bayer, helping out the people who really support and are the pillars of society. That's what keeps me going. So, but, again, I do enjoy the donuts. So.
Amazing. I love it. So tell me again where people can find you.
Yeah, so anyone interested in learning more about this BeSure stewardship campaign should visit growingmatters.org/BeSure. That's BESURE.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much to both of you for joining me. Great conversation.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Chrissy.
And thanks to all who are watching or listening. If you want to learn more, all the links are provided in the show notes. And don't forget to subscribe to North American Egg Spotlight on Rumble, Telegram, Apple, Amazon, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a great day. Thanks so much for listening to today's Egg Spotlight episode, where we put the spotlight on people and companies doing great things for the agricultural industry. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Stitcher, or on your favorite podcasting platform, and give us a 5-star review. You can also follow us on YouTube and Rumble to see the video version of Ag Spotlight. Also, head on over to NorthAmericanAg.com to subscribe to our Industry Connect update newsletter. If you're interested in advertising opportunities, email us at connect@NorthAmericanAg.com. Thanks for listening.